Hello everybody, this is Richy and I'm sitting here with Julian, the designer of the team. And we had a video recently where we discussed the ideas for the new website and the new design with Kojo. And we got to the point where we started discussing a little bit about staking. But the one that is actually in charge of doing all the staking design right now is in the app, is Julian. So I decided to also discuss it with him, analyze a little bit more in depth what is going to happen in the wallet, which I think is like pretty interesting for our users, our community. Just maybe let's start from the beginning. When you started to come up with this design, I understand you did some research also from other projects. How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, in the first place, I think it's just very good that we can do this actually, because right now, like in comparison to how it is right now, when we have staking, everyone basically can be part of securing the network by staking their money, and at the same time even make some money on that. That's kind of a win-win. And we're not the first ones to do that, so we took a look at all the other big projects that are doing staking already, had a look at different wallets and how they approach that problem, or like not a problem, but how they approach that challenge, right? And what we found is that in a lot of the time it's actually quite straightforward. You don't have to do many things to start staking. You know, you basically you choose your amount, you choose a validator, and then you stake. But actually the whole process, even though it's straightforward, was kind of boring in a way. I didn't get much information. It was a big black box, and it was kind of lacking the fun a bit, I feel. So what we did in the end, we just took all that research and thought about, all right, what's the parts that we can just take like they are, because they are straightforward, and what can we put on top to make it more fun and more transparent in the end as well, so that I know what's going on with my money actually.
Okay, so let's look at it. How is it? What do you have already like in mind for the wallet?
So let's maybe start with a basic concept. I'm kind of jumping around now a bit, but
Yes,
I think that's fine. So what we have here is basically a component library of all the stuff that we have, like in terms of elements that I need to interact with my staking. And I think one of the central ones is this slider here. The slider,
which is already, sorry for interrupting, is already familiar to the slider that people or the users use right now when they're swapping.
Exactly. It's a little bit different, but actually we already have plans to update our swap experience a little bit.
Okay.
You know, just as a bit of an update, we found out that this actually makes more sense. It feels more intuitive to interact with a slider like that. So we're gonna, of course, we need to stay consistent within the interface. So what we do in the end is we just like update the whole thing. It's a minimal change. But yeah, it's a familiar element. It should be a familiar element. I think the special thing about it is that we introduced this plant metaphor. I got a small leaf here.
Can you maybe focus
sure.
a little bit?
Of course.
Yeah, I've seen it
I got
in a couple of designs that you shared. This I really like it.
Yeah, it's kind of the underlying metaphor that we want to use for staking, because I mean staking is quite abstract, but in the end it really is about you know, just growing my stack of money, I guess, you know, and at the same time also really helping the network to become robust and secure. And that's why we introduced this plant metaphor, which starts with a small plant.
I also kind of like, I feel for me it was an analogy also of how proof of work to proof of stake now with the transition to 2.0, the blockchain itself becomes more green, more eco-friendly. So at least for me it was kind of like, I feel it a little bit in the green, the plant aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that actually fits. That fits perfectly well. But yeah, like obviously, as you can see here, the more you stake, the more your plan kind of grows. And we want to kind of follow this concept within all the staking experience, basically. So if you have an account or an address that stakes that stakes more, then you can also already see it in small icons and like small indicators about your staking process in terms of like, you know, how much your plant grows. So this is pretty much the basic concept. And well, maybe let me just get you a bit of a kind of sneak peek into how you would start, basically. So
yeah, I would love.
What we have here is we just include this, like, at the same time, just to take a step back maybe, at the same time we don't want to open up a whole new world that the user first has to understand. It's like, okay, now we have this new section on the website, it is staking. Please first read all of this stuff. And then it's like, we want to have it integrated. It should feel like it really is part of the interface. It's part of how I anyway interact.
Like it has been part of it all along.
Exactly like that, yeah. So that's why we really try to integrate it as much as possible. We have an entry point right here. And then basically, if you click that, you'll get a little welcome screen. This is not finished yet. This is just a placeholder for now. But then you would select your validator. One important thing here is that we'll probably have a bunch of validators. And the average user will probably have heard of the concept of a validator at this point for the first time.
Yeah,
what is it? How do I choose a validator? How do I know if it's good or bad? What do I even need to look out for? So what we came up with to tackle that problem is a thing that we call trust score. We basically evaluate how reliable a validator is in terms of how much uptime it has. So like meaning how much of the reward that the validator promises I actually get, how many of the blocks that the validator is supposed to produce it actually produces. And then also stuff like is it regularly paying out as the validator says, how old is it, and also how big is it, because we also don't want to have like one validator being extremely big that will be a threat to decentralization. So we kind of like want to balance that out and give people a hint on how to choose a good validator.
Yeah, maybe a hint here, something interesting is that this trust score was actually, I would say, developed by Bruno, blockchain researcher of the team. So I'm going to have maybe a talk with him about how the trust score works in terms of like the math of it, because I think it's really interesting this part that you just explained of the trust score being inverse proportional to the size of the pool. Because if you have a big pool, you don't want to tell people, continue, like keep going to this one is becoming bigger. So that's pretty interesting. Remember to subscribe. We're going to have that video later, and I'm going to have a talk with Bruno about it. But let's move on in the design.
That actually is quite interesting, you know, the whole concept. Like it looks super simple here. It's a number, but in the end, it's kind of like, it's
a whole research where like that all the math that goes behind this small trust score.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, and then you basically, you basically just have to choose how much you want to stake. And what we want to do here is we want to give you a little bit of a prediction of like, you know, what does that mean actually? How does staking more affect how much you could earn? Of course, this is all estimations based on the network right now. It can all change, and we, at the same time, we make this clear, you know, like we really need to be transparent here with people, that this is not like, okay, you can expect this amount of money. It's more like, you know what, if the network stays like it is right now, then this would be roughly what you would be getting. But anyway, I think even though it's kind of vague, it still helps people to understand, or like to make it more applicable, basically.
Yeah, to get an idea.
Yeah, exactly.
What to expect.
And that's basically it, you know.
And then a familiar flow of input your password, and then you're done.
And then staking successful. Then it takes some time until your staking is actually active. But after that time elapsed, your wallet overview would look a bit like this, basically. Up here, you have this green staking box that always keeps you updated about your staking process. At the same time, your address here on the left side will get this little staking icon. Again here, as you can see, just zoom in a bit, depending on how much of your address is staked, the more your plan grows.
That's pretty clever.
As you can see here,
Because
like,
at a glance you can see how is without having to go inside and check into the details.
exactly. Yeah. And then here you have some details. You have all the options. You can say, all right, I need some money to be available now, so I could reduce my stake or increase it. I can switch my validator because it might be that the validator became unreliable. I think that is a quite unlikely case for most validators.
It is okay for people to have the option.
At the same time, and that's also something I think to talk about here, it's like we don't have a lot of data on how this will turn out. So it might totally be that we find out, all right, we only have, we need to do things differently because just the reality is not exactly how we imagined it here. I think we have a pretty good basis for it, but let's see. Yeah, of course you always should have the option to unstake, but that's it basically. We kind of reduced it to just a couple of interactions that you need to do. It's not a lot. I think it will be extremely easy for people to stake. I'm quite happy about it so far.
Yeah, it looks very nice.
Can't wait it to be implemented, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so I think in terms of the user flow, that's basically it. Now the next step is for frontend to start making these designs a reality.
Exactly. And it's already, we already started to talk a bit about implementation, talk a bit about how do we do things, what's possible, what's not possible, especially, things like changing your stake or switching your validator. It looks simple on the outside, and that's actually how it should be, of course, but actually there's quite some complex blockchain interaction in the background, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it.
And last question, I noticed that there's some overstake, at least placeholder there.
Yeah.
Are you like, because it's open to everybody, so are you thinking in running a validator maybe at some point?
Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, let's see how easy it is, but the plan is actually to make setting up a validator with a bit of technical knowledge an easy thing. I'd absolutely love to have a validator.
Yeah, and I think that's the right way to do in terms of decentralization, to make it so easy that everybody out there can run a validator, maybe with a group of people or in their country. I would love to see that, like the Costa Rican validator and maybe German validator, and some people the community getting together and organizing that.
In the end, I think the best outcome would be if we have a whole bunch of very small validators, basically, hundreds of them, and not few big ones that control all the market. That would be ideal. And I would totally like I would absolutely like for Overnice to also run a validator. Yeah.
Cool. Well, if you run a validator, I might stake with you.
Oh, okay. That's good to hear.
So thanks for the in-depth discussion. Very nice designs. I understand. I know all the effort that goes behind this. It looks like nice and simple and clean, but all the effort behind, like different options and A/B testing and researching. I mean, awesome job. So I'm pretty happy about the result. Thanks a lot. And remember to like and subscribe to this channel. Also comment in the sections, what do you think about the designs? Are you excited about Nimiq 2.0? Would you have done something differently, or would you recommend something to Julian in terms of the designs that you just saw? So,
yeah, please, any feedback, highly appreciated.
Yeah, okay, so remember to comment, and we'll see you around.
Bye-bye.